Are your feet killing you? Mine are always giving me problems. That's why I'm thrilled to have the Director of Operations at BioPed, Vanessa Carnovale here, and Manager of Medical Education and Center Support, Melissa Robito. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Your main theme is orthotics, but you do a lot of other things too. Let's, if you would, tell me what an orthotic really is.
An orthotic is a medical device that goes into your footwear. It's contoured to the shape of your foot, and what its job is to realign your foot so that when you're walking, you're doing so properly, because some individuals might not quite do that perfectly well. So this way we can reduce any extra stress that's being placed on your muscles and your joints to make it more comfortable.
How do you determine what the right orthotic for somebody is?
That's a good question. Because we have on-site labs, there's hundreds of different orthotics that we can actually make custom to each person. And so we look at their lifestyle, we look at what condition they're coming in with. Some patients that have diabetes, we need to be careful with what we provide them with. We have to go with a full-length orthotic so that we don't create an abrasion potentially where they may not have sensation and know that that's being caused.
Because that's one of the problems with diabetes, isn't it? You lose sensation in your feet.
Yes, it's called neuropathy. So what ends up happening is patients lose sensation, and when that happens, they won't notice if their shoe is too small, or maybe if there is some sort of stitching inside that may be creating an injury to their foot. And when that happens, it's called an ulceration, and that can take a long time to heal. So we want to avoid that if we can.
Gangrene can set in, all of those things. What are these feet that you've got here? Is there one good one and one bad one?
Well, we have the two different foot types here. We have sort of the two ends of the spectrum.
These are both bad?
This one here, it's not necessarily bad. It depends, again, on what you're going to be doing with them and what type of footwear you're going to be using them in. So as Canadian Certified Foot Orthotists, we are trained in footwear modifications as well. So if you tend to have a foot like this, which you can see has a very high arch, people with that type of foot will tend to walk more on the outsides of their foot.
That's me.
Putting a lot of pressure on the outside of the shoe. So we can fit the shoe properly to you. We can help you select the most comfortable shoe for what you're going to be doing. As well, we can modify any of the shoes that you may have if we need to by adding a little bit more material under the outside or cushioning wherever you may need it.
And then this would be your flat-footed pal,
yeah, so
right?
This would be sort of the opposite end of the spectrum where I stand as a flat-footed person, and as well we can modify the shoe or the orthotic to help to give you support where you need it the most.
That's cool. So it's literally changing the way the feet move on the ground, is that right?
Actually, even above and beyond your feet, it affects your knees, it impacts your hips and your low back. So really we're working our entire way up the body and making changes. Tell
me about, if you don't get an orthotic, what that can lead to in terms of problems. You mentioned some pain in other parts of the body. Why does that happen?
Well, not everyone needs an orthotic, but if they do have some sort of abnormality in how they're walking, for example, in your situation, you said you had a high arched foot, and you may tend to walk more towards the outside. Well, in actuality, what that does, it creates a bowing. Have you ever seen someone with bowed legs before? And that actually puts extra pressure on the inside of your knee. So some people will develop knee osteoarthritis, and when we can actually try and, to the best of our ability, prevent that early on. So what we try and do when patients come in and we've examined their foot is explain to them 2 or 3 features that are best for them to choose in their footwear so that whenever they go out to any popular store, they don't have to rely on the person there to help them. They know for themselves what's best for them.
Nice. And it used to be that comfortable shoes were hideous. That's not the case anymore. You've brought some really great examples, and on your website even, you've got even more terrific examples. What do we want to look for in a shoe?
Right, so for example, well, with the weather out today and with the upcoming spring weather, hopefully, we want to get people out of sort of the $2 flip-flops and into something with a bit more support to it. So now, as you mentioned, they're adding a little bit of bling, they're coming in different sorts of colors. So this shoe here, or this sandal here, you can see has some contouring and some support through the footbed, through the arch. It also has a nice deep heel cup, so that will help to keep your foot solid and not, moving around too much like you would on the flip-flops. Also, it's a nice firm material, so you're not going to wear it out. You're not going to compress it as quickly as you would with some other materials. Nice little arch support
in the center there.
And some grip under the toes for you there. So something like this is what you're looking for as opposed to your $3 flip-flops.
Yeah. Okay.
And what I would probably add is, since you have a higher arched foot and you walk towards the outside, you'd probably avoid a sandal similar to this one that's very flat. You'd actually want a sandal that has a curvature on the end called a rocker sole, so it'll propel you forward and you won't put as much pressure there.
Isn't that funny? I've often felt like I'm always walking uphill if I have a super flat shoe. That's really interesting.
So something like this has what we call a rocker sole. So as you put your pressure on the front of the foot, the shoe helps to propel you forward.
I love that. Okay. And you know what? These are quite light. Is that important? They don't weigh very much, these shoes, even though they've got all this support.
Right.
Well, the lighter they are, the more efficient they are for you to walk in. So we try and marry the right features with weight as well. So we keep all that in consideration.
Is it like braces? You know, they constantly have to adjust braces as the teeth shift. Do our bones shift? Do we have to get new orthotics every 6 months or something?
So we have our patients come in for the initial assessment. They come in to pick up their orthotics. We have them in for a checkup about 3 to 6 weeks later, at 6 months and at 1 year. If they find that the support is changing and that they may need more support or less support sometimes, for example, with a material like this, again, it might compress a little bit and we can adjust. So again, with the on-site labs that we have, we're able to do that while you're in the office. We don't have to mail this out to a lab anywhere. We take care of it while you're right there.
And you can pop this out of this shoe and stick it in that shoe, right?
Correct.
Is that the brilliancy of it?
Correct. There are different orthotics for specific shoes. However, as long as the shoe is generally the same shape and has the same depth, you can easily move it from one to the other. So I could move it from this sandal here to a running shoe very easily. However, if I have someone who needs to wear dress shoes all day long, I might create something that's very slim in a plastic type of material so it takes up very little space in their shoe and they can do that without a problem.
Can you wear high heels with an orthotic?
Well, I have, firstly, I have, in terms of high-heeled shoes, I have an 80-20 rule. So what I say to patients is that 80% of the time, wear the shoes that are best for you when you're on your feet for prolonged periods of time. And 20% of the time, when you're getting dressed up and you're heading out, by all means, wear the high-heeled shoes. When you do so, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the orthotic at that time. It won't make a whole lot of a difference. But when you're in your more comfortable footwear, we could definitely put it inside.
So as long as you're doing it most of the time properly,
correct,
you're going to be okay. Well, I'm excited about this because I find when my feet are bothering me, my back bothers me, I have less energy, but if I'm wearing a shoe that fits properly and is comfortable, I actually have more energy. So I think this is great, and you're doing a great service for so many people. If you have any kind of foot pain, you want to get any more information, bioped.com has everything you need. So I really appreciate everything you said today, and it's a great website.